All right, welcome back, guys, to another Roblox programming tutorial. And today we are going to be tackling the idea of conditional statements. Now, thank you guys so much for bearing with the last video talking all about scripting basics. Make sure that you watch that video. It goes over some of the fundamental concepts of programming. I strongly recommend that if you have any questions about variables, and the specific data types that we talked about last time, that you go ahead and review the last video, scripting basics. And if you have any questions as far as how to move stuff around inside of Roblox Studio, how to organize things as checkpoints, models, all this kind of stuff here, make sure that you take the time as well to review the Roblox basic video. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the next concept here, which is the idea of conditional statements. Now, conditional statements will do a certain line of code or will do a certain cluster of code based on a condition and whether that condition is met or not. So let's go ahead and look at an example script here. Now, before we get into all of this, I want to go ahead and denote this right here. There's certain ways you can check for values inside of Roblox Studio. So whenever you use an equal sign in programming, this is assigning a value. It is not checking for equality. Checking for equality is to see whether things are equal or not. An equal sign assigns in programming, but two equal signs checks for equality. And there's various different ones here. So two equal signs will check for equality. A tilde here, this guy, and then an equal sign checks to see if they are not equal. This checks for greater than. This checks for less than. This is your greater than or equal to. And then this is your less than or equal to. So those are your comparison operators, as they are known as. They are, and I'll go ahead and list them up here in the comments. You have checks for equality is a double equal sign. Not equals will be this. Less than or equal to, greater than or equal to will be this. Less than or equal to will be this, and then obviously greater than will be this, and less than will be this. But these are some of the main ones, and I strongly recommend you know these. These are known as comparison operators. Okay, and then one other small side note I want to make here is the idea of having negative numbers. Although 3 in most cases is greater than 0, when you have -3, that is going to be less than 0, because it's worse to owe somebody $3 than to owe them nothing, right? So the value of this would be less than 0. And I just want to make sure that I cover that negative numbers are of lesser value than 0 and or positive numbers. So let's go ahead and now come back here to our if-then statements. So I have here the variable a, which has been assigned to the data type of an int value of 7. I can now check certain things about that value. For example, if a is equal to 7, then I can print yes, right? And if I run this program, indeed, yes will print here in my output window, right? And this is the idea of using a comparison operator. This will return a Boolean. If a is equal to 7, then this right here will return as true. And if you see, if I put true here, it will go ahead and print yes, right? If I put false, which is the opposite of true and is the other Boolean, right, then it will not print yes. And this is the idea of a conditional statement. If something, either yes or no, then print, right? And you can use all sorts of different comparisons here. So if this is not equal to 7, if a is not equal to 7, which it is equal to 7, it will not print anything, right? And if I change this value here, it will now print yes. So again, this is the whole idea right here. This is known as a conditional statement because it's doing something and it's checking based on a condition. It's also known as a logic statement as well, and they are very, very useful in programming, and we'll be looking at a lot of examples there, especially when it comes to debounce. But that is an example of a conditional statement. Now, bridging along with this, let's go ahead and look at some other examples of conditional statements. You can check here for equality. Let's say I'm checking here if a is equal to 7, right? In this case, a is equal to 8, so it will not print yes. I can now come and go and type in a new type of conditional statement, which is else if. This, else if, or elif in Python, or elif in other languages, will now check a second condition, right? Is a, equal to 8. Then do something. Print yes, number 2. Right? So this checks on a second thing, right? And I can combine else if together many different times, right? So I can do else if is a, less than 8, less than or equal to 10, then do another action, right? And I can add as many of these else if statements as I want to check and run specific programs based on a specific action. In this case, it will print not only yes 2, but it will also print yes 3. In this case, and if I run in my output window, it prints yes 2. Less than 10. Cool. Yep, it just prints this because it's equal to 8, so it doesn't check this third one. And that's a really, really important distinction here. If this second one is met, it's not going to check the third one. It only checks this if the first 2 conditions are not met. And that's a super important distinction here. So the last comparison operator is going to be an else. If both of these fail, then my condition is to always do this. So let's say this is now equal to 9. Well, 9 is not equal to 7. 9 is not equal to 8. So it will automatically, in all other cases, print this. And as you can see here, it does print that value. So again, this is the idea of using logic statements inside of Roblox Studio and Roblox programming. Super duper important concept here, the idea of using if, then statements, else if statements, and else. Again, if this is true, and this will return a Boolean, then do this. Else, if this is true, then do this. This will only be checked if this turned false. Else, if all of this is not right, then we'll do this. So some nice little coding concepts there. I hope this helped anybody who has any questions on using conditional statements inside of Roblox Studio. And I'll see you in the next one.